Started the day by updating the Trello with all the new features that has to be implemented in the next version of the extension. I'll start by working on connecting Firebase to the extension and authenticating our users. Connected the Firebase database to the extension, created an authentication command and connected the email authentication provider, which allows you to send a mail and a password. And when I click on this button, you can see it shows that the user has been authenticated and a unique user ID for the particular user has been created. If you go back to our database, you can see a new user has been authenticated right now. So the email signing part is working, but when I try to sign in using Google, then it is showing me that operation is not supported in this environment. I'm done with the basic flow of the authentication system. So how this works is, first of all, there's a command called authenticate user. As soon as I call this, it checks if the user is already been authenticated or not. Since the user is not authenticated right now, it asks you for an email and a password. Once you enter those, you can click on auth. Then you can see it says user set. That means now the user has been authenticated, and if I go to my Firebase database, you can see the authentication has been completed and the user has been generated and a unique user ID has been created. Now next time if I go for the authentication command again, the extension will retrieve the information. Now since the user is already authenticated, it won't show a new screen to add your email or a password. So I can do authenticate user and you can see it shows that the user has already been authenticated. Now apart from the email authentication, I was also trying to add the Google or GitHub authentication, but it was giving me an error that this is not supported in the current environment, which means that the Google authentication with my current code will only work in the browser environment, and until I find a way to authenticate it using a VS Code extension, I'll stick to the email and password authentication for now.
Hello everybody. So in the previous clip, we completed the authentication part, the email authentication part of a extension in VS Code. And between that clip and this clip, there's a difference of 1 week because I had my badminton tournaments. I had my inter-university badminton tournaments. I have to go for that and this whole week was consumed on that only. But I'm back right now. The task for today that I thought of was to improve the UI. As you can see, the UI that the extension has right now is honestly not the best. So I was thinking of creating some better looking designs. This will firstly improve the user experience, and second of all, in future it will make the stats more shareable on social media, which will finally help in the growth of the product. So I'll be working on the design and the HTML, CSS, JavaScript of that design. Alright, so spend the whole day searching for designs and trying to replicate them using HTML and CSS. I'm not very good at designing, so I can't just think of a design or start creating. I have to go through different websites, different design inspirations to honestly see which designs I can copy and mix and match to get my own. So this is the dashboard that I found in Dribbble. This looks very close enough to something that I was expecting to create as a final stats window or analysis window after you end a session in my extension. As you can see, there are different metrics here. This would be the visual representation of how consistent you are. These kind of cards can be used to show different stats. These type of bar graphs can be used to show how much have you worked today in comparison to other days and like stuff like that. Taking inspiration from this and few other sources, here are some designs that I finally came up with and recreated them in HTML. First is a very basic login window that will be used to authenticate the user. Next is a kind of contribution graph that you see in different coding platforms like GitHub and LeetCode. So this will be helpful for tracking your consistency and your streaks and how your month or year looks like. And a basic bar graph using pure HTML and CSS. And combining all these, I'm trying to create a dashboard kind of final screen, which has different cards that are shareable and different combinations of stats that you can see and get insights from. And this is the final design that I came up with. It has 3 different sections. The first one is the title that you can edit after your session is ended and would be displayed here. Second is a contribution graph similar to what you might see in GitHub, but it has these numbers in it which shows that how much hours you have worked on a particular day. 0 symbolizes that you have not worked that day, so the streak is broken basically. That's why it's an empty square. The green squares are the days that you have worked, and the blue box determines today's session. Next we have this optional message here which will be shown if you reach a PR or if you have some best timing or whatever.
and this is copied from Strava. And finally, these are some stats in which I'll be displaying different shareable results.
So this is the design of one of the cards that would be visible when you complete a session for the analysis. Similarly, I'm thinking of creating 2-3 different cards with different stats and different UI elements, and the user can choose whichever card they want to share with the public. This makes the extension much more pleasing to the eye and much more shareable to the social media.
Another design which shows a weekly bar graph, which shows a weekly bar graph.